Leah Harper stood at the edge of the council chamber, her hands shaking slightly as she clutched the documents that carried the fate of her planet. Viridia had survived for thousands of years, but now it was on the edge of destruction. The council had gathered in their usual circle, tall and imposing figures with shimmering robes that reflected light in strange ways. They were silent for a moment, letting the tension hang in the air like a heavy fog. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. Every step she had taken to reach this moment had been filled with risk. Every negotiation, every plea, every carefully chosen word, all had led to this final moment where she had to ask the council for mercy. She had hoped that her reputation, built over decades of careful diplomacy and courage, would help. But even now, looking at the faces of the council members, she felt a cold knot of fear settle in her stomach. "Commander Harper," said the eldest member, a tall figure with pale blue skin and eyes that seemed to look through her. "You may speak, but know this. Our time is limited. Speak quickly and without emotion." Leah nodded and straightened her posture. "Honored council members, I come before you not to beg, but to present the facts. Viridia is a planet of peace. Its people have lived quietly, working the land, building their communities, and contributing in small ways to the galaxy. But recent conflicts with neighboring systems have left us vulnerable. Without your intervention, Viridia will fall, and my people will be scattered or destroyed." One of the younger council members, a being with silver hair that floated as if underwater, leaned forward. "Commander Harper, we have records of Viridia's conflicts. You have engaged in raids on several systems over the past century. You have refused to comply with our peace treaties. Why should we believe that your planet deserves our protection?" Leah's throat tightened. She had anticipated this, but hearing it spoken aloud still stung. "With respect, council members, those were defensive actions. Viridia has always sought peace, but when attacked, we were forced to defend ourselves. We did not initiate war. Every move we made was to protect our people from destruction." A murmur ran through the chamber, like wind moving through dry leaves. Leah's eyes scanned the faces of the council. They were unyielding, and she felt the weight of centuries of judgment pressing down on her. She had studied the council for years, knew their rules and expectations, but nothing had prepared her for the cold, almost cruel efficiency of their decision-making. The eldest council member spoke again, his voice like stone. "Commander, your words are noted, but the council does not grant mercy lightly. Viridia's recent actions, intentional or not, have caused instability in multiple sectors. The council has already voted. Your planet is deemed unworthy of aid." Leah's heart stopped for a moment. The room seemed to blur around her, as if the walls themselves were closing in. She had hoped, she had pleaded in private, she had prepared every argument she could think of. But it was not enough. I beg you to reconsider," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I'm asking not for honor, not for praise, but for life itself. Please allow Viridia a chance to survive. We will cooperate fully. We will accept any conditions you impose." A cold silence followed. Leah could hear her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. The council members exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Finally, the youngest member spoke, a soft voice that carried through the chamber. "Commander Harper, hope is not enough. Your planet will not be saved. Leave this chamber and take your people with you. Accept your fate or face destruction." Leah felt her knees weaken. She had expected rejection, but the finality of it hit harder than she imagined. She wanted to cry, to scream, to beg for just one more chance, but no words could change the council's decision. She swallowed hard and straightened her posture, refusing to let them see her fear. She would not break here. Not yet. "Thank you for your time, council members," she said quietly. She turned and walked toward the exit, her steps heavy but determined. Outside the chamber, her assistant, a young man named Ethan Moore, waited. His face was pale, and his hands shook slightly as he clutched a datapad filled with reports and survival plans. They didn't give us a chance," Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. Leah shook her head, a tight, bitter smile forming. "No, they didn't, but we still have options. We always do." Ethan looked at her, confusion in his eyes. "Options?" "Leah, the Council decided. They control the fleets, the technology, everything. How can we fight them?" Leah took a deep breath. "Not with weapons alone, Ethan. Not by following rules they set. There are always those who act outside the Council's control. We have to find them." The words felt hollow even as she said them, but she forced herself to believe in them. The Council had always underestimated the galaxy's smaller players, the ones who moved quietly, unseen. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, humans had made a name for themselves as such players. Leah's thoughts drifted to the rumors she had heard. Humans traveling the stars in small fleets, helping worlds in need when no one else would. They were unpredictable, daring, and sometimes reckless. But they had courage, something the Council could not measure or control. As she prepared to leave the capital city of Viridia, Leah felt a mix of fear and hope. Fear, because the Council's decision meant certain danger for her people. Hope, because humans existed. And their reputation for intervening in impossible situations gave her a fragile sense of possibility. In the days that followed, Leah worked tirelessly. She coordinated evacuations, stockpiled resources, and tried to strengthen Viridia's defenses as best she could. The Council's task forces were already mobilizing, and she knew time was slipping away. Each day brought new reports of Council ships moving through the sectors, of planets falling without resistance. The reality was stark and brutal. One evening, as Leah reviewed communications in her office, a small, unexpected message appeared on her screen. The sender was unknown, using an encrypted channel. She hesitated for a moment, then opened it. "Commander Harper," the message read, "we know your situation. We are coming to help. Ryan Carter." Leah stared at the message, disbelief washing over her. Ryan Carter. She had heard the name in whispers among traders and diplomats, a human captain known for taking impossible risks to help those in need. She had never thought she would see a message from him personally. Ethan entered the room, peering over her shoulder. "Is that what I think it is?" he asked. Leah nodded slowly. "It's hope, Ethan. It's hope." The following hours were filled with preparations she had never imagined. She contacted remaining allies, gathered intelligence on the Council's fleet movements, and plotted a meeting point for the humans. Every action was tinged with fear, but also with a spark of determination she had not felt in years. When Ryan Carter's fleet finally appeared on the Viridian horizon, Leah felt a surge of relief and astonishment. The ships were small but sleek, moving with a speed and precision that surprised her. They were clearly not part of any Council fleet, yet their presence alone seemed to challenge the Council's authority. Ryan himself boarded the capital's docking station to meet Leah. Tall and confident, with a calm demeanor, he shook her hand firmly. "Commander Harper," he said, his voice steady, "we're here. You're not alone anymore." Leah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had faced the Council, pleaded for mercy, and been denied. But now, standing in front of humans who had chosen to help without question, she felt something new. Possibility. "Thank you," she said, her voice catching slightly. "I didn't think anyone would come." Ryan smiled faintly. "Most wouldn't, but humans, we don't always follow the rules others set. We act when it matters. You mattered, Commander." As the sun set over Viridia, Leah stood with Ethan and Ryan on the observation deck, watching the human fleet settle into position. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to feel hope. The Council had refused mercy, but humans had not. And perhaps, just perhaps, that would be enough to save her world. Night fell, and the stars above Viridia shone brighter than ever. Leah knew the days ahead would be dangerous, that the Council's wrath was still approaching, and that survival would not come easily. But she also knew one undeniable truth. When the galaxy turned its back, humans were willing to step forward. Leah's heart steadied. Her people would survive, and the Council would learn that mercy was not always granted from the expected places. Sometimes, it came from those no one had considered, humans who acted not out of obligation, but because they chose to do what was right. And with that thought, Leah prepared for the battle that would decide the future of Viridia, knowing that she had allies who would fight with her, even against the might of the entire Council. Leah Harper watched the human ships settle in the orbit of Viridia, their sleek designs glinting against the stars. They were unlike anything she had seen before. Small, fast, and efficient, they moved with a precision that made her heart race. These humans, who had come without permission from any Council authority, seemed fearless. And somehow, that fearlessness gave her hope. Ryan Carter, the captain of the lead ship, approached her once more. "Commander Harper," he said, his eyes scanning the Viridian horizon. "We need to understand everything about your defenses. The Council won't wait long, and neither can we." Leah nodded. She had prepared for this moment as best she could, but she had never imagined coordinating with humans. "We have some planetary defenses," she explained. "Turrets along the main cities, early warning satellites, and a small fleet of local ships. But compared to the Council, it's nothing." Ryan smiled faintly. "Nothing can be something if used the right way. Humans have a habit of making the impossible possible." Ethan Moore, Leah's assistant, frowned. "I don't understand. How can small ships like these stand against the Council's fleet? They have hundreds of warships, advanced weapons, and nearly unlimited resources." Ryan leaned against the railing, looking out at Viridia. "It's not just about the ships, Ethan. It's about thinking differently. We exploit weaknesses they don't expect. We adapt. And most importantly, we fight for reasons they can't predict. That gives us an advantage." Leah studied him carefully. He spoke with confidence, but she could see the burden in his eyes. Humans had a reputation for courage, but they were also known for taking risks that could easily lead to death. She wondered if she was ready to trust them completely. Still, she had no choice. Viridia needed help, and the Council had already turned its back. Over the next few days, Leah and Ryan worked tirelessly together. They went through the planet's defense systems, identifying weak points and making improvements. Humans had a different way of approaching problems: quick, practical, and often unorthodox. Ryan suggested repositioning defense satellites to create overlapping fields, using decoys to confuse incoming enemy scanners, and even training local pilots in new maneuver tactics that Leah had never considered. Mia Collins, the human engineer, proved to be just as important as Ryan. She moved through the control rooms of Viridia with quiet confidence, examining equipment that had not been touched in decades. "These systems are old, but not useless," she said. "With a few modifications, we can make them act faster, target smarter, and last longer under pressure." Ethan watched in amazement as Mia worked. "I've never seen anyone do this," he admitted. "She's incredible." Leah smiled faintly. "Humans have a way of seeing things differently. It's what makes them dangerous, and why they're helping us." As preparations continued, Leah began meeting with Ryan and his team daily. They discussed strategy, logistics, and even philosophy. Ryan often spoke about humans in ways that seemed almost strange to her. Humans aren't just fighters, he explained one evening. We act because we choose to. We take risks because we know some things are worth fighting for, no matter the odds. That's something the Council doesn't understand. They measure everything in power, in numbers, in rules. But courage, that's something you can't measure, and it can change the outcome of any battle. Leah thought about those words long after the meeting ended. She had spent her life negotiating, calculating risks, and following protocol. Humans did not follow protocol. They created their own rules. And perhaps that was exactly what Viridia needed. The human fleet itself was small. But Leah noticed how efficiently it moved. Ships that looked fragile were fast, maneuverable, and armed in unexpected ways. They carried weapons that seemed unconventional, energy disruptors, rapid-fire drones, and adaptive shields. Each ship was designed to work independently or together in formations that Leah had never seen. Ryan called a briefing for her pilots and local commanders. He spoke plainly, without the formalities of the Council. "Listen," he said, "the Council will come with their standard formations. They rely on predictability, on intimidation, on rules. We don't follow those rules. We adapt. We attack where they least expect, and we defend where they think they have no threat. You follow our lead, and we might just survive." Some of the local pilots were skeptical. "We've never fought like this before," one of them said nervously. "What if it fails?" Ryan's expression was calm but firm. "Then we adjust. Humans never stop adjusting. You'll learn, fast, trust me, and trust each other." Training began immediately. Leah watched as her soldiers and pilots learned new maneuvers, tested new strategies, and adapted to the humans' methods. It was exhausting, but also invigorating. For the first time, Leah felt that her people had a chance, not just to survive, but to fight back. Ethan observed the humans with a mix of admiration and disbelief. "They're different," he said one evening. "They don't just fight. They inspire. They make you feel like you can do things you never imagined." Leah nodded. "That's what we need. Courage, belief, and determination. The Council can't give that. But humans, maybe humans can." As the days passed, Leah began to understand Ryan and his crew better. They were not flawless. They argued, they joked, they made mistakes. But they also learned quickly, adapted, and acted without hesitation when danger arose. Leah realized that this was why humans had survived and thrived in the galaxy despite their small numbers. Their unpredictability, their willingness to take risks, and their refusal to surrender made them powerful in ways the Council could never measure. One night, Leah and Ryan walked along the observation deck, watching the stars. "You know," she said quietly, "I never expected humans to come. The Council's rejection left me feeling hopeless, but you make me feel like there's a chance." Ryan smiled faintly. "Hope is why we do this, Leah. The galaxy is full of powerful councils, strict rules, and impossible odds. But hope gives people a reason to fight when they have no other reason. That's what humans understand, and that's why we act." Leah felt a warmth in her chest. She had spent her life believing in rules, in logic, in diplomacy. But sometimes, she realized, rules could not save lives. Courage could, determination could, and humans had both in abundance. The human ships moved into position around the planet as the Council's fleet approached. Leah could see the tension on her people's faces, fear, doubt, and a desperate need to survive. But Ryan's presence brought a calm assurance. Even Ethan, usually anxious and cautious, seemed steadier with the humans around. Ryan called another meeting. "The Council thinks they can scare you. They think they can intimidate you with numbers and rules. But they don't know the humans. And now they don't know you. We're going to show them that courage matters more than numbers. Follow our lead. Trust each other. and we might just change the outcome. Leah felt a surge of determination. The council had dismissed her, ignored her pleas, and left her people vulnerable. But she had humans on her side now, unpredictable, brave, and willing to act when others would not. Perhaps this was exactly what Viridia needed to survive. The days leading to the council's attack were tense. Leah oversaw preparations with meticulous care, integrating the human strategies with Viridia's existing defenses. She watched as her people trained tirelessly, learning maneuvers that seemed impossible at first, but became second nature under Ryan and Mia's guidance. Ethan came to her one evening, holding a datapad filled with updated defense plans. "Leah, I think we're ready," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and excitement. "The humans have taught us so much in such a short time. I think we can do this." Leah nodded, a faint smile on her lips. "We can, and we will. The council might have power, but they don't have courage. They don't have hope. And right now, we do." The human fleet stood ready, small but formidable. Leah felt a strange sense of calm as she watched the ships maneuver into position. The council's task force was approaching, but for the first time, she did not feel helpless. With humans at her side, she felt a spark of possibility, a chance that Viridia could survive, that her people could fight back, and that the council's cruelty could be challenged. As the night sky stretched above Viridia, Leah knew that the coming battle would not be easy. The council would strike with all their might, expecting obedience and surrender. But they would find neither. Instead, they would find a planet united, trained, and led by humans who refused to follow the rules. Leah's heart raced, but it was no longer filled with fear. It was filled with determination, with hope, and with a newfound understanding of the strength humans carried. The council had denied mercy, but humans had brought something far more powerful: the courage to fight, the will to survive, and the belief that even the impossible could be achieved. And as the stars shimmered above the planet, Leah prepared to face the coming storm, knowing that she was no longer alone, and that with humans at her side, Viridia had a chance to endure. The first glimmer of the council's fleet appeared on the Viridian horizon, just as dawn broke. Leah Harper stood on the observation deck, watching their enormous ships move like a shadow across the stars. Hundreds of warships, each far larger and more heavily armed than anything she had ever seen. Even with the humans by her side, the sight was intimidating. Ryan Carter walked beside her, calm as ever. "They expect us to panic," he said, his voice steady. "They think our small fleet will crumble before them, but they don't know humans, and they don't know you." Leah swallowed hard. She had trained her people for weeks, adjusted their defenses according to Ryan and Mia's plans, and integrated human strategies into every aspect of their preparation. Still, seeing the council's armada approaching made her chest tighten. Fear was natural, but she reminded herself that fear alone would not win this battle. Courage would, strategy would, and determination would. The council's fleet began its advance, weapons systems glowing ominously. Viridia's defense satellites activated, sending streams of energy into orbit to detect and disrupt incoming attacks. Local ships launched from the planet's hangars, forming defensive formations under Leah's supervision. Ryan and his crew moved through the command center with precision, giving orders, adjusting positions, and communicating with every ship. Mia Collins worked quickly to enhance Viridia's weapon systems. "These turrets are old, but they can still pack a punch," she explained to Leah. "We just need to redirect power to the main energy cores and sync them with our targeting algorithms. It'll increase accuracy and speed. If we time it right, we can hit multiple council ships before they even realize we're targeting them." Ethan Moore watched in awe as the humans adapted Viridia's defenses. "I can't believe how fast they work," he whispered. "It's like they know exactly what to do without hesitation." Leah nodded. "That's why we need them. They see things differently. They don't just follow rules, they create solutions. As the Council's fleet drew closer, Ryan called a meeting of all the commanders. "Listen up," he said, pointing to the tactical hologram in the center of the room. "The Council expects us to act predictably. They'll strike in straight lines, rely on their shields, and use overwhelming force. That's why we'll do the unexpected. Viridia's smaller ships will act as bait, drawing them into traps. Human ships will flank and strike at weak points. Turrets and orbital defenses will focus on high-priority targets. Timing and coordination are everything." Leah studied the hologram, memorizing every maneuver. She felt her confidence grow. The humans' strategy was daring, yes, but it was precise. If executed correctly, it could turn the tide of an impossible battle. Ethan leaned close to her. "Do you really think it will work?" he asked nervously. Leah took a deep breath. "It has to. The Council expects us to fail, but that expectation is our advantage." The first shots were fired as the Council's fleet closed in. Massive beams of energy streaked across the void, striking Viridia's defenses. Leah's stomach tightened, but she refused to show fear. She watched as the planet's turrets responded, firing back with improved speed and accuracy thanks to Mia's adjustments. Several smaller Council ships were hit immediately, sending bursts of debris into space. Ryan's voice cut through the command center. "Now, execute the flanking maneuvers. Move fast, strike hard, and stay unpredictable." Human ships darted through the gaps in the Council's formation, weaving between larger ships with incredible agility. They struck weak points with concentrated energy, then disappeared before the Council could respond. Leah could hardly believe the sight. Small ships moving like shadows, powerful beams of energy disabling massive warships, and yet no human ship had been lost yet. Ethan clutched the railing. This is incredible. They're actually doing it." Leah nodded, her eyes fixed on the holographic displays. She coordinated her own fleet, instructing Viridian ships to follow the humans' lead. Slowly, cautiously, her people began to understand the new tactics. They moved with more confidence, trusting the humans' strategy and striking at targets they would have previously avoided. One Council ship, enormous and heavily armed, began to focus its fire on the human lead ship. Ryan's vessel twisted and turned, dodging energy blasts with impossible speed. "Mia, now!" he shouted. Mia activated the adaptive weapon systems. Energy disruptors shot out in a precise pattern, striking the Council ship's weak points. Sparks and explosions tore through its hull, and it began to drift uncontrollably, crashing into the void. Leah felt a surge of relief and excitement. Victory was not assured, but the humans had shown that the Council was not invincible. Leah gave orders to the Viridian fleet to press the advantage. They began targeting the Council's smaller ships, using the humans' tactics of unpredictability and timing. The Council's armada, used to absolute control, struggled to adapt. Their ships were powerful, but rigid in strategy. The humans' methods, unpredictable, daring, and cooperative, created chaos among their ranks. Ethan leaned close to Leah. "They can't keep up," he whispered. "They're confused by our tactics." Leah nodded. "Exactly. This is our chance. Keep pressing. Do not give them time to regroup." The battle raged across Viridia's orbit. Beams of energy lit the void. Explosions scattered debris, and ships moved with deadly precision. Leah felt her heart race with every maneuver, every attack, every narrow escape. She had never imagined that her planet could stand against the Council's fleet. And yet, here they were, holding their ground. Ryan's voice came over the comms. "Commander Harper, your people are doing well. Keep the pressure on. Timing is everything. We strike when they least expect." Leah coordinated with the local commanders, ensuring that every ship followed the plan. The humans moved alongside them, teaching, guiding, and inspiring. Every strike was calculated, every move deliberate, and the Council's fleet began to falter. Ships that had seemed unstoppable were now retreating, struggling to respond to the new and unpredictable tactics. Leah felt a mix of exhilaration and fear. The Council had underestimated humans, and that miscalculation had given her people a fighting chance. She had witnessed courage in action, humans risking everything, Viridians following their lead, and together they were achieving the impossible. Amid the chaos, a Council commander communicated directly with Leah. "Commander Harper!" The message crackled over the comms. "Your actions are foolish. Surrender now, and your people may yet be spared." Leah's hands tightened around the controls. "We will not surrender," she said firmly. "Viridia will survive, and we will fight for every life on this planet. Humans stand with us. You underestimated them, and you underestimated us." The Council commander's voice grew cold. "You cannot win. Resistance is futile." Ryan's voice cut in over the comms. "Resistance is not futile when courage leads the way. Commander Harper, keep moving. We've identified weak points in their formation. Focus fire now." Viridian ships, guided by human strategy, targeted the Council's vulnerable areas. Massive Council ships began to explode under concentrated fire. Small human ships darted through the chaos, striking repeatedly and retreating before retaliation could reach them. Leah watched in awe, realizing that humans had turned the impossible into reality. Ethan could hardly breathe. I never thought we could do this," he said, his voice trembling. Leah placed a hand on his shoulder. "We can do it, because we have humans with us. Courage can turn the tide of any battle. Remember that, Ethan. Remember this moment." The Council fleet, now disorganized and struggling to maintain control, attempted a retreat. But Leah and the humans pressed forward, keeping the pressure. Each move was precise, coordinated, and relentless. Ships that had once seemed unstoppable were now retreating in defeat. Ryan's voice came over the comms once more. "Commander Harper, this is our chance. Push them back. Make them regret ever underestimating us." Leah's fleet advanced, using every tactic the humans had taught them. Missiles, energy beams, drones, and decoys all moved in harmony. The Council's ships were being destroyed or forced into retreat. The battle that had begun with fear and despair now became a testament to determination, courage, and unity. Finally, the largest Council ship, the flagship, appeared. It was enormous, bristling with weapons, and designed to intimidate. Leah's heart raced. The flagship's firepower could destroy everything in its path, but she had faith. The humans had a plan. Ryan addressed the fleet. "This is it. Target their weak points, coordinate your strikes, and trust your instincts. Courage is on our side. We can do this." Leah nodded. She took a deep breath and gave the order. Viridian ships and humans moved in perfect synchronization. The flagship's shields were hit repeatedly, its weapon systems disrupted. Sparks and explosions ran along its hull, and slowly, impossibly, it began to falter. The Council fleet, seeing their flagship in trouble, began to retreat. Their confidence shattered. They left the battlefield, unable to comprehend how a smaller, unexpected force had defeated them. Leah felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. She had survived, her people had survived, and for the first time, she realized the full impact of human courage. They had fought not for rules or authority, but because they chose to act, and that choice had turned the tide of battle. Ryan stood beside her, a faint smile on his face. "You did well, Commander Harper. Your people fought bravely. Humans only guided them. Courage won this day." Leah looked out at the stars, at the retreating Council ships, and at the humans who had risked everything to help her people. For the first time in weeks, she felt hope in its purest form. The Council had expected obedience and surrender, but they had met resistance, strategy, and courage. And that resistance had come from humans who had refused to stand by and do nothing. Ethan approached her, awe still in his eyes. I never thought it was possible. They made us believe we could fight, and we did. Leah nodded. Yes, Ethan. And now we know something important. Courage, determination, and hope are more powerful than any council or fleet. Humans understand that, and we learned it from them. As the stars shone above Viridia, Leah knew that the battle was won. But the war was not over. The council would regroup, plan, and strike again. But now, she had a secret weapon the council could never understand: humans, and the courage they inspired. And with that thought, Leah prepared her people for the challenges ahead, knowing that with humans by her side, Viridia could face anything, even the might of the entire council. The council had retreated, their massive fleet broken and scattered, but Leah Harper knew better than to celebrate too soon. The victory had been hard won, and Viridia was still vulnerable. She stood on the observation deck, looking out at the remains of the council's ships drifting in space and at the human fleet now orbiting the planet. There was silence, heavy and thoughtful as the realization of what had happened began to sink in. Her people had survived against overwhelming odds, but the battle had left scars, physical, emotional, and political. Ryan Carter stepped beside her, arms crossed. It's quiet now, he said. Too quiet sometimes. You need to remember this isn't the end. The council will come back. They always do. But today we showed them that courage and strategy can beat fear and authority. Leah nodded slowly. She could still feel the adrenaline in her veins, the memories of ships exploding and energy beams streaking through space. The council had expected them to surrender, but humans had changed the rules of the game. We did what they said was impossible, she said. My people, they fought bravely. And your methods, they worked better than anything I could have imagined. Ryan smiled faintly. Your people had the courage all along. Humans just help unlock it. Sometimes all it takes is a spark to light a fire. Ethan Moore approached, eyes wide with awe and gratitude. Leah, the humans, they saved us. I never thought anyone would. They fought like legends, and somehow we kept up with them. Leah placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. Yes, Ethan, we did more than survive. We learned something important. Courage isn't about rules or numbers. It's about choosing to act when it matters. Humans know that, and they reminded us what it means to fight for life, for hope, and for each other. Meanwhile, on the planet below, Viridian engineers and soldiers were already working to repair damaged stations, rebuild defenses, and clear debris from the cities. Human engineers had helped them modify the planetary systems to be more resilient, using new techniques that seemed almost magical to Leah's people. Mia Collins moved among them, showing them how to synchronize power grids, reinforce hulls, and optimize energy distribution for both defense and recovery. Her calm, methodical approach inspired confidence, and Leah could see the pride returning to her people's faces. Ryan met with Leah later in the command center. Commander, the council may retreat now, but this isn't just a victory for Viridia, he said. It's a message to the galaxy. Smaller planets, weaker systems. They can resist if they act with courage, creativity, and unity. Humans just help remind them of that. Leah smiled. And they remind me. I thought I was alone, that no one would come to help. But humans, they proved that even when the galaxy turns its back, hope is never lost. Ethan interrupted, holding a datapad filled with updates. Leah, the reports are coming in. Other planets and systems we helped in the past, they're responding. They've heard about the humans. Some are preparing to resist the council now, inspired by today's events. Leah's heart swelled. The council's reach might be vast, but its influence was not absolute. When the oppressed had courage, allies, and hope, even the most powerful force could be challenged. That's good news, she said quietly. It means today isn't just a victory for Viridia. It's a start. The council, meanwhile, had returned to their central chamber in shame and confusion. Their flagship had been damaged, many of their ships destroyed, and the confidence they carried for centuries had been shaken. The idea that humans, small and unpredictable, had altered the outcome of a major battle was unthinkable to them. Their leaders argued among themselves, unable to comprehend how a single, unexpected ally could turn the tide. Leah, standing with Ryan, watched the council's actions from afar. She understood their disbelief. The council valued order, obedience, and rules above all else. They measured power in fleets, weapons, and authority. But humans had demonstrated something the council could not calculate: courage, ingenuity, and the willingness to act when others would not. Ryan looked at her, his expression serious. "They'll try to come back, Leah, but now you know something important. The council may have power, but it can be challenged. Courage changes the rules. That's what humans bring to the galaxy." Leah nodded. "Yes, and my people have learned that too. We won't forget this day. We won't forget what it feels like to have allies who believe in action, in hope, and in each other." As the human ships prepared to depart, Leah gathered her people for a farewell ceremony. Soldiers, engineers, pilots, and civilians alike stood in the central square, looking up at the fleet with gratitude and respect. Ryan, Mia, and the rest of the human crew stood beside her, quietly receiving thanks, nods, and smiles. Leah stepped forward, her voice carrying across the square. "Today, our people faced an impossible challenge. The council believed we would fail, but we did not fail. Not because we had the largest fleet, not because we had the most advanced weapons, but because we had courage, hope, and allies who refused to abandon us. Humans came to our aid when no one else would, and they reminded us of what we are capable of. Viridia will endure, and we will not forget what we have learned today." Applause and cheers echoed through the city. Tears of relief and gratitude filled many eyes. Ethan looked at Leah, his voice trembling. "They really saved us, and somehow, they made us stronger too." Leah smiled faintly. "Yes, Ethan. That's the most important part. They didn't just fight for us. They taught us to fight for ourselves." Ryan approached her one last time before departure. "Commander Harper, it's time for us to move on. There are other worlds, other people who need help. But know this, you and your people have what it takes to survive. You just need to remember courage and hope. Humans will always act when it matters, but the lessons you've learned here, they belong to you now." Leah shook his hand firmly. "Thank you, Ryan. And thank you to all of you. You came when no one else would. You risked everything. We will honor that. We will carry your lessons forward." Mia gave a small smile. "Remember, Commander, it's not just about weapons and strategy. It's about courage, belief, and helping each other. Humans act because they choose to. You can too." The human ships began to ascend, leaving Viridia's orbit. Leah watched them move into the stars, a mixture of awe, gratitude, and hope filling her heart. She knew they would face dangers in other parts of the galaxy, but she also knew their influence would ripple across countless worlds. Ethan approached her, glancing at the departing ships. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" he asked softly. Leah shook her head, smiling. "I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe not. But it doesn't matter. They've already given us something greater than protection. They've shown us what it means to have courage, to act when it counts, and to fight for what's right. That will stay with us forever." Over the following weeks, Leah oversaw the recovery of Viridia, cities rebuilt, defenses strengthened, and morale improved. Her people trained harder, not just in tactics and weapons, but in thinking boldly, acting bravely, and never underestimating what could be achieved when courage led the way. reports arrived from other systems inspired by the human fleet's actions. Small planets and colonies, once resigned to submission, were beginning to resist the Council in quiet, coordinated ways. Leah realized that the battle they had fought was more than just a defense of Viridia. It was a spark of hope for the galaxy. Humans had reminded the universe that courage, ingenuity, and solidarity could overcome even the most powerful forces. Leah spent many nights on the observation deck, staring at the stars. She imagined the humans traveling through the galaxy, helping those in need, taking impossible risks, and inspiring others along the way. She thought of Ryan, Mia, and the rest of the crew, knowing they would continue to act where the Council expected inaction. A sense of peace settled over her. The Council had been defeated, but more importantly, her people had been transformed. They had learned that survival did not rely solely on power or authority, but on courage, hope, and unity. Humans had shown them the meaning of true strength, the kind that comes from choice, from action, and from the refusal to stand by while injustice prevailed. Ethan joined her one evening, quiet as she watched the stars. "Leah, do you think the Council will try again?" Leah shook her head. "Yes, but we'll be ready. We've learned from humans, and we've learned from ourselves. Fear may still come, but courage will always be stronger. That's the lesson we carry forward, and that lesson will never be forgotten." The stars above Viridia seemed brighter that night, as if reflecting the hope that had been kindled across the planet. Leah felt a quiet pride in her people, in the humans who had come to their aid, and in herself for leading when all seemed lost. She knew the galaxy would continue to challenge them, but now she also knew that humanity's courage had left a mark that could not be erased. And as the human ships disappeared into the vast reaches of space, Leah Harper understood something vital. Even in the darkest moments, there would always be those willing to act, to fight, and to stand for what is right. And sometimes, those people came from the most unexpected places, the humans who refused to ignore the call for help, and who had changed the fate of an entire planet. Viridia had survived. Its people were stronger, wiser, and braver, and the galaxy, whether it realized it or not, had learned a lesson it would never forget. When humans came to aid, mercy and courage were never in short supply, and impossible odds could always be overcome.